more women in positions of power. If Putin was a woman, which he obviously isn't, but if he were, I really don't think he would have embarked on a crazy macho war of invasion and violence in the way that he has. If you want a perfect example of toxic masculinity, it's what he's doing in Ukraine.
Good morning from Athens, Greece. It is 8:30 here on this Thursday morning. Let's do an update on all the news that went down yesterday. And let's do a real quick update on the NATO Madrid summit with regards to Turkey and the news that the Turkish government, well, not the Turkish government, say a Turkish justice minister is calling for the extradition of 33 people, citizens actually, of Finland and Sweden, who according to this justice minister are associated with the PKK and other groups, other Kurdish groups that Turkey considers to be terrorist organizations, and that now I guess Finland and Sweden have to somehow brand as terrorist organizations in accordance with this memorandum that they signed with Turkey, this agreement they signed with Turkey, which then gave them Erdogan's yes vote to enter NATO. So they got into NATO. They got what they wanted. They went from candidate country to NATO to NATO member. I think they're actually fast-tracked it, if I'm not mistaken. Like they were a candidate country for like one day, and then they became a NATO member like the next, something like that with Finland and Sweden. Anyway, doesn't matter. They're in NATO, or they're going to be in NATO. It's a done deal. Turkey has given its yes vote. It's over. And then you get this story about the justice minister in Turkey saying that it's not quite over yet. We would like to extradite these people. Something like 10 people in Finland and like 13 people in Sweden or something like that. That's the breakup. And they're associated with the PKK or various other groups. The Finnish government, they pretty much came out and said, and the Swedish government actually, they came out and said, look, we're going to take a look at these extradition requests, and we're going to follow the law, which basically was a no. That's how I read it. I think this situation is over and done with, at least with regards to the public disclosed information as to what Turkey is getting from the deal and what Finland and Sweden had to give up. I think it's over. Finland and Sweden, they got the yes into NATO. They avoided what would have been a massive embarrassment by having a no vote. So they got in. NATO's happy. The globalist political elite in Finland and Sweden, they are happy, and Turkey's happy because, well, Turkey is going to get what they asked for, which is the branding of terrorists and whatever other goodies Bidenomipolis is going to give them, and they're going to get goodies. We don't know what those goodies are. F-16, F-35, money. We don't know what the goodies that Bidenomipolis is going to give Turkey, but they're going to get some more goodies, that's for sure. Which brings me to the next story with regards to goodies that will be dished out to Erdogan and Turkey. One of those things that Turkey might be getting from the U.S. is something in and around Syria. And so we have to keep our eye out for what's happening in Syria. Let me navigate this road real quick. Because we know that Turkey did mention a couple of weeks ago that they are planning an invasion into Syria, into the north of Syria, the south of Turkey, to create a buffer zone against the Kurdish presence there. And of course, you also have the U.S. occupation of various parts in the north of Syria. So I am positive that whatever Erdogan discussed with Bidenopolis and President Sullivan, whatever they discussed when they met on the sidelines of NATO, I'm sure that they talked about Turkey's next moves into Syria and what the U.S. will give Turkey and what the U.S. will not give Turkey as far as their possible incursion into Syria. So we need to keep our eye out for Syria, and of course the other big player in Syria is Russia, and we have to see what Russia's going to do. So far they've kept Turkey at bay with regards to Syria. They've kind of kept the Turkish presence there a bit frozen. The U.S. has its illegal occupation of Syria up in the north as well, and they've just kept it kind of frozen. But if Turkey makes a move, and if they're making a move in coordination, or with, say, the hidden blessing of Bidenopolis and President Sullivan, well, then you're going to have to see what Russia's going to do in response to that. So a lot of moving pieces with regards to Syria. By the way, Syria officially recognized Donetsk and Lugansk yesterday. So that is big news. That is very big news. That is, I believe, the first country, the first state to officially recognize Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics. So that was also a development with Syria. But look, keep your eye on Syria. Let's keep our eyes on Syria and see if there really is going to be some moves being made by Turkey, and what will be the American response and what will be the Russian response. So we'll wrap it up there with Turkey and the update there. Turkey, NATO, Finland, Sweden. And let's wrap up NATO, the NATO summit, with Stoltenberg's new security concept that NATO has formulated. So this security concept that NATO puts together, one sec, street cleaners, washing the streets, keeping the streets of Athens nice and clean. So this security strategic concept that NATO has announced is kind of like a mission statement. You know, it's going to give NATO's mission, their vision going forward. And that's a real document. Like, there's a real thing that all these NATO globalists, these warmongers, they come together and they put all this stuff in writing. You know, how they're going to rule the world, and they document it and they come up with this strategic concept. And Stoltenberg is all proud of this because he's doing his job, and his job is about expanding the alliance. You got to expand the alliance. You got to fight enemies. Otherwise, there's no reason to keep the bureaucracy funded and moving along. But the strategic concept has now removed Russia as a partner. It's not considered to be a partner or a workable partner. And Russia is now a security challenge, a threat, an enemy. Remove the diplomatic speak, and Russia has been moved from a workable partner to an enemy. And so that's the first main plank of this new NATO strategic concept mission statement. And the other plank is that China is also not a country that they can really work with, because according to NATO, China is a systemic challenge. So the big takeaway from the Madrid NATO summit is Finland, Sweden are in, Turkey got what it wanted, and Russia is now the enemy. They are the main focus of NATO. And China is going to be the next focus of NATO as they pose a systemic challenge. The globalists love the word systemic, don't they? Everything is systemic, even though it's their system. They're the ones that created the system. Now they have problems with it. Systemic racism, systemic challenge. It's all systemic. Yeah, so that's pretty much what happened in NATO Madrid. And of course, Stoltenberg and NATO, they're going to militarize Europe in a big way. Europe is going to be colonized, completely militarized, specifically by the United States, but the war machine, the military-industrial complex war machine. The White House announced that it's going to be moving all kinds of equipment and troops in Poland, in Romania. Really, Poland and Romania are the big ones. In Germany as well. In Spain. In Spain, they're going to bring all kinds of, I believe, destroyers, and they're just going to completely militarize Spain as well. Just basically a complete MIC takeover of Europe is what's going to be happening now going forward. Good business. Good for business. So the military-industrial complex, I'm certain, is super duper happy with what happened during the NATO summit. And of course, the final thing that the final takeaway from this NATO summit is that NATO wants Ukraine to continue to fight. The Belgian Prime Minister, he gave a real fiery talk, real fiery statements, saying that Ukraine has to win on the battlefield, and there is no turning back. There are no negotiations. There is no peace. This has to be won on the battlefield. And NATO, the EU, the collective West, they are in it for the long haul. That was pretty much the statement coming out of the Belgian Prime Minister, which was echoed by all the leaders in attendance at the NATO summit. So I'm in downtown Athens. The Hotel Grand Britann is right in front of me. There's a real busy crosswalk. 1 second as I cross this street here. These three crosswalks in a row. So that was the takeaway from NATO. I think it's pretty much went along the lines of what we all expected, didn't it? You know, NATO is not going to let Ukraine negotiate, period. They're not going to do it. And so Ukraine is on the hook. Zelensky is on the hook for the long haul. Until there's no Ukraine left. That's pretty much the rhetoric coming out of the collective West. This is going to be fought until either Russia loses and Russia is broken apart, or until there is no more Ukraine. And I think it's going to be there is no more Ukraine. That's going to be the most likely outcome of all of this, because what is going on. So it's really weird. The cars go this way, other cars go this way. But once upon a time, you used to actually have buses go this way as well. Cars would go that way, buses would go that way. It's just complete chaos, very chaotic Athens. But talking about the war and why most likely it's going to be the disintegration of Ukraine is because while the collective West is still stuck on Severodonetsk, and they're talking about how Ukraine has lost Severodonetsk, the Russians have already moved on to Lysychansk, and the reports that I'm getting is that they have captured the main oil refinery in Lysychansk, which is a big deal. From what I understand, this was the area that was supplying much of the Ukraine forces in the Donbass. So the Russians have captured that. And I believe that by now, all of Lysychansk is encircled. You've got a closed cauldron. That's what I'm understanding. And Zelensky may have a couple of hours left, or he did have a couple of hours left to pull out whatever troops he could. But from what I gather now, that is closed. And whoever is in Lysychansk, whatever Ukraine military is in Lysychansk, they are now effectively surrounded. And that cauldron has now been shut. And so with Lysychansk, what you have is effectively, as the Russians take Lysychansk, what you have is the full liberation, pretty much the full liberation of Donbass, of Lugansk. And then they're going to move towards Donetsk, which would be the liberation of Donbass. After Lysychansk, you're going to be looking at the Bakhmut highway, and then eventually Slavyansk. And so this is a big deal, because one of the two pieces of the puzzle, Lugansk and Donetsk, those oblasts, those areas, one of those two areas has now been made whole, or will soon be made whole, and that is Lugansk. So this is a big, big defeat for Ukraine and for Zelensky. And the collective West media is still stuck on Severodonetsk. They're still talking about that loss. That was like a week ago. And you can see that the Russian military, it seems to me like they're moving a lot faster, or better to say that the Ukraine military seems to be surrendering at a much faster rate. They seem to be not willing to put up as much of a fight. At least that's what I'm seeing, because Lysychansk, Severodonetsk, and now Lysychansk, it seems like these well-fortified areas, they fell a lot faster than I thought they would, and I think many analysts thought they would. So that is not a good sign for Ukraine and for Zelensky. And I'm trying to think. With that said, I've got two clown worlds, and one might be pretty long for a clown world segment. But before we get to the clown world, let's talk about one more story, which is Svalbard, the archipelago that the Norwegian archipelago, because it is Norwegian territory, but it's an interesting archipelago. So Svalbard is close to the North Pole, and it was a big. It used to be a big mining, coal and mining archipelago, but it also now has tourism and stuff like that. And anyway, it's under the it's Norwegian sovereign territory, from what I gather. But it's interesting in that the way Svalbard is set up, because of many treaties. One thing that I was reading about Svalbard, which is interesting, is that you can actually go live there without visas or anything. You can just, if you can make it there, you can set up shop in Svalbard, and then you can live there. You don't really have to go through any visa issues or residency stuff, which I thought was interesting. But because of various treaties, for example, the 1920s treaty with the Soviet Union, Russia was able to keep a presence in Svalbard, kind of a mining presence, a mining colony, if you will. Let's call it a village, a mining village, where they were mining coal. And this was like kind of on again, off again, the mining of coal. They had actually like 3 settlements, and 2 of those settlements in Svalbard eventually shut down, and now they're down to 1 settlement, which shut down like 10 years ago, and then they opened it up again anyway. So there are Russians that live there. And the Norwegian government, it seems, following the EU's sanctions packages, they've also decided to cut off the delivery of supplies to the Russians in Svalbard, to these settlements, these villages in Svalbard. And Norway is not part of the European Union, but they are part of the economic infrastructure of the EU. They have agreements there. with the EU, and they are following the sanctions packages that the EU has put in place. Norway is following those. And so what happens is that medicine, food, and other supplies that are supposed to be delivered to these residents, these villages in Svalbard, they have been cut off by the Norwegian authorities. And the interesting part about this, from what I understand, is I believe it's the mayor or the governor, I'm not sure, the authorities in Svalbard, they actually care for the people there. And they said, look, we don't want to cut them off and we don't want them to starve and to be deprived of medicine. But it's the Norwegian Central Authority that is cutting off these supplies, because anything that gets sent to Svalbard, it passes through Norway, and then from Norway gets delivered up to the archipelago. And from what I understand, it's the Norwegian authorities that are starving off the Russians that are residing in these villages. And Russia is super pissed. Russia is basically telling Norway that this is unacceptable. People are going to suffer and people are going to die, Russian citizens, and Russia is going to take action. And we're going to have to wait and see what Norway does. Obviously, Norway is doing this under the direction of the United States and the EU, the collective West. It's a pretty despicable act, what they're doing, to be quite honest. But they're taking their orders, much like Kaliningrad. This is really similar to Kaliningrad. Much like Lithuania and Kaliningrad, Norway is kind of doing the same thing. But, you know, they want to, what the EU wants to do is they want the Russians out. They want these Russian villages choked out of Svalbard. They want them gone. They don't want any Russians there. And Norway is complying with that, but you know, people are in danger of not having vital medicines or not having food and other supplies. So this is just a real bad situation, and these are Russian citizens. And actually, let's go across the street here. And Russia said that they are going to act if Norway does not lift this blockade of these villages. So we need to look at what's happening in Svalbard. We still have Kaliningrad as well. We have to keep an eye on Syria. It's you know, the collective West is they're in a panic because they're losing bad in Ukraine, and so they're trying to find whatever other pressure points they can find in order to make it difficult for Russia or for Russians. And they're finding it in all kinds of places, including Svalbard, which is something that I never thought the EU would do. I never thought the EU would stoop this low. Kaliningrad, I was worried, but Svalbard, really? A bunch of coal miners and just people that are living in these villages, and you're going to choke off their access to food and medicine? Pretty low. But this is what you do when you're in panic mode, and the collective West is in panic mode. And Norway better lift this blockade. Otherwise, things are going to get really, really bad. But that's what's going on there. We have to watch all of these stories and see how they unfold. I think Svalbard will be solved. That's my hunch. My belief is that you have a small, I mean, the Russians there number in the hundreds. And I think they're going to solve this. Kaliningrad, I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but I think that's going to happen later on. That's going to be a problem that the Russians will solve 2, 3, 4 years down the line. For now, they've got a workaround. And Syria worries me. We're going to have to really wait to see if and when Erdogan moves with his special military operation, we could call it that. If he actually does pull the trigger on that and decides to go into the north of Syria and create this buffer zone, And then we have to see how all the other interested parties react, specifically Russia and the United States. So let's move on to our clown world. And I've got a really short clown world from the NATO summit. And then I've got another clown world, which has to do with who else but Boris, the clown Johnson. And so the first clown world deals with one of the meals that was given to all the attendees of the NATO summit. And one of the items on the menu was Russian salad. So all these globalist bigwigs, during one of their NATO lunches, they got triggered because on the menu was Russian salad, but not like the traditional Russian salad, like the real Russian salad, which is called Olivier. And actually, Olivier is named after the chef who was at the Hermitage, who created this Russian salad. And it has nothing similar to what it is today. Back when Chef Olivier created it, it was a very different type of salad. But anyway, Olivier salad is really a staple in Russia. It is the real Russian salad. This salad that triggered the attendees at the NATO summit was a type of potato salad, ensaladilla rusa for the Spanish speakers. For all the people in Spain, if they're familiar with ensaladilla rusa, that is what was on the menu, but it triggered a lot of the NATO attendees. It's like a potato salad. Let me see here. Potato salad with peas, potatoes, carrots, mayonnaise, and it was being sold. It was at this lunch, but it was being sold at €8 a serving. It's a lot for a salad, but I guess all the NATO guys, they've got the cash from the big military industrial complex windfall that they have going on, the grift that they have going on with regards to Russia and China and all of this stuff. But yeah, so they got triggered and they freaked out. But the interesting part is, as they were triggered and freaked out, it looks like some of the attendees actually decided to try this Russian salad, this potato salad, and they liked it. They liked it so much that the salad actually sold out. It sold out. So that was the first bit of clown world. That's a fun clown world. This is a ridiculous clown world. This may be the best clown world ever, and it has to deal with Boris Johnson, Bojo. And Boris Johnson, he gave a statement to ZDF, a German publication, and he said this, and I'm sure a lot of people have already heard this statement from Boris Johnson, but let me read it to you. He said, "If Putin was a woman, which he obviously isn't, but if he were, I really don't think he would have embarked on a crazy macho war of invasion and violence in the way that he has. Putin's invasion of Ukraine is a perfect example of toxic masculinity," Boris Johnson said. And then he also called for better education for girls around the world and for more women in positions of power. Oh boy, where to begin? And even Putin sounded off on this. Peskov sounded off on this. Maria Zakharova sounded off on this. I mean, Boris Johnson got demolished. First of all, I think the UK, I don't know, maybe the Queen, someone in the UK needs to put some sort of order in place, barring Boris Johnson from speaking in public. He is an embarrassment. Is there a way that you can prevent Boris Johnson's plane from returning to the United Kingdom? Kind of keep him in Spain, in Madrid, kind of keep him there. That would be good as well. But boy, Boris Johnson is an absolute clown. First of all, he's pandering to women, right? Clearly. And he's trying to virtue signal and get woke brownie points here. More women in positions of power, he says. This is toxic masculinity. This is pathetic. I mean, this is real pathetic. I wanted to say it's pathetic behavior from a man, but at this point, I don't even know if I can say that about Boris Johnson. I mean, he is pandering hard to to women here. I mean, what other way can you explain this? And Boris Johnson, it's your assumption that women in power don't start wars is wrong. People in power start wars. Men, women, it doesn't matter. Hillary Clinton started many wars. Margaret Thatcher started a war. Madeleine Albright, she's about as warmonger as you can get. I can think of many women in power right now that are itching for war. Ursula von der Crazy is itching for more war. In the United States, you could say that Nikki Haley loves war. Samantha Power, she invented the concept of humanitarian war. That was her. She coined that phrase. I mean, she promoted that phrase, humanitarian intervention, right? So this whole concept that women don't start wars is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. People start wars. People, institutions, wars start. It's not a male-female thing. But Boris Johnson is, once again, he's pandering. He is pandering and he's sucking up, and it's pathetic. I mean, it is really pathetic. And then, of course, he takes a dig at Putin, and he tries to now say that Putin is the epitome of toxic masculinity. Okay. Putin's to blame for everything, including toxic masculinity now. We got it. We get it. We understand, Boris. You despise Putin, and you blame him for just about everything that has not gone right for you in your time as prime minister. Putin is to blame. Maybe Boris Johnson should start to look inwards in order to understand why things are going so poorly for his prime ministership and for the UK. Maybe he should look inwards, and he'll find his answer there. Given what Boris Johnson said, Dmitry Peskov, the spokesperson of the Kremlin, came out with a statement saying that Sigmund Freud would love to have Boris Johnson as a patient, something along those lines. That was what Peskov said. Putin actually was asked about this, and he was asked about Boris Johnson's comments, and he was also asked about the G7. We're going to take off our shirts. Ha ha, he he. I like horses too. Comments that were made, and this is what Putin said. He said, "I don't know how they wanted to undress waist high or not, but I think it would be a disgusting sight either way." And he was asked specifically, by the way, about his the photo that he took on the horseback as well. So he said. He also said that everything should be harmoniously developed in a person, both the body and the soul. However, in order for everything to be harmonious, one has to abandon excessive drinking and break other bad habits, start exercising, take up a sport. Putin then said, when he was asked about the macho war or invasion in Ukraine, Putin responded by saying, "I just want to remind you about the events of modern history when Margaret Thatcher, Margaret Thatcher, made a decision to launch military action against Argentina over the Falkland Islands. Here's a woman deciding to launch military action. Where are the Falkland Islands and where is Britain? And this was dictated by nothing but imperial ambitions. So coming from an acting British Prime Minister, this is not exactly a correct remark in regards to what is happening today." So that was Putin's remarks to the G7 and their stupid, ridiculous little roundtable media op that they had taking place a couple days ago. And he also responded to Boris Johnson and his toxic masculinity statement. Putin is just on a different, he's on a different intellectual level than these guys. Putin is an adult. And one thing that we saw from the G7 roundtable meeting and that we're now seeing from Boris Johnson is that Ursula von der Crazy, Trudeau, and Biden, Macron, Draghi, all of these guys and gals are children. They really have the mind of a child. That's one thing that is absolutely clear. And Boris Johnson, more so than all of them. But the best comeback, and this is how I'm going to end this video, came from Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova. And she said this about the G7 and specifically about Boris Johnson's toxic masculinity remark. And she posted this on her Telegram in Russian. She said that Boris Johnson said that Putin started the special military operation. Remember, this is important. Russia doesn't consider this a war still. This is a special military operation. Russia has not declared war. And Russia is winning this in a very, very big way with a military that is not a war military. It's very important that we remember that. The entire collective West is saying this is a war, but Russia is fighting this not as a war. And they're fighting this with limited forces. They're not fighting this with all of their might. That's a huge thing to remember. And that is why NATO and the EU is panicking. Anyway, Maria Zakharova says in Russian that Boris Johnson stated that this special military operation started because Putin is not a woman. And then she comes up with her, with the takedown statement. She says that that Boris Johnson is fantasizing, has hot, sweaty fantasies about Putin. She says, "Vot eta." What kind of hot, sweaty fantasies is Boris Johnson having? I hope I got that translation correct. I'm not fluent in Russian, but I'm conversational enough, and I read well enough that I think I got this this translation correct. Isparinoi, fantasias isparinoi, which is, if I'm understanding correct, is like a hot, sweaty fantasies with a hot, sweaty fantasy. I could be wrong about that, but let me know, the fluent Russian speakers down below. But that's her statement. She's saying, what kind of crush, what kind of fantasies does Boris Johnson have about Putin? And then she says, what are the G7 people up to? What kind of things are these G7 characters, these G7 leaders up to? That is her following line. And she's hinting at, that they're into all kinds of crazy, weird things. So that was the takedown move from Maria Zakharova. Zakharova is really, really good. She's really good on social media, and she's really good at taking down these clowns. Anyway, that's the video, guys. I'm gonna end it there, and let me know if I got the translation correct. I think I got it down correct. But what a dumb clown world comment from Boris Johnson. I think at this moment in time, we have to say that as we get closer to the end of the year, say 6 months away from the end of 2022, that right now Boris Johnson is way in the lead as far as clown world segments go. And this one's going to be a tough one to beat. Anyway, I'll end the video here. theduran.locals.com. Check out Alexander's channel, and check out the Duran's main channel. And it's time for morning coffee and to edit this video and get it up. Take care.